How's it going, guys? Panther Films, and today we're going to be reacting to Season 1, Episode 4 of The Acolyte. This episode is titled Day. But yeah, last episode we basically just had a full-on flashback episode where we learn what happened to May and Osha when they were young. There was a fire, obviously. The Jedi might have been involved, we didn't really see. And all the witches died. Now, in the grand scheme of that episode, a lot of debates happened online. A lot of people pissed off with specific things with the Force stuff and like how May and Osha were conceived. Which sure is a little bit questionable, but it's Star Wars, you know, like there's witches that can bring shit back from the dead. Like, it is what it is. Like, that shit doesn't bother me. The stuff that bothers me is just, did we need last episode at all? Right? Like, I get that it was mainly focused on, like, Osha's perspective of everything. But it really undermined, like, May as a character. Like, at first you thought May wasn't fully, like, dark side, right? Like, the way she was kind of questioning things, like, in the first two episodes. But then, last episode, you have her literally want to kill Osha because she wants to go with the Jedi. Okay, so she's just straight up like a psychopath. So they did that with May, but then the episode itself just felt like it wasn't necessary because of the fact that we were already told what happened. Seeing it, sure, like, okay, we get a little bit of a different context, but like I said, it ruins May's character a little bit because we've established that she was a psychopath, right? So you can't really redeem that if you're going that path with her character, which definitely seems like they'll probably do. Just, like, based off the first two episodes, like, she sees Osha and then she's like, oh, maybe that she's alive now, maybe I don't have to be a bad person anymore, you know? And just, like, we were told what happened. We don't need to see it. Granted, they shouldn't have told the audience what happened. We should have just seen it from the get-go. But clearly there's more going on last episode than what we were shown. Like, the Jedi have to be involved somehow because Torben, like, killed himself because of the guilt of what happened. Saul is being a little bit shady with certain things, like in episode 1 and 2. Like, he seems like he knows more than he's saying. And yeah, like, it just feels like there's more going on there, clearly. And it did look like Torben had, like, at the end of last episode, it looked like his eye was injured. So something must have happened, clearly. Like, because it couldn't have been May that killed them all, because she set a fire in Osha's room, or just outside Osha's room, and then suddenly all the witches are dead. That's just weird. You know, like, something else happened. I assume we're going to go back to Coruscant now, because of where episode 2 ended off. Unless we're going to continue with the flashback stuff. I don't know. May is going to look for, is it Kalnaka, the Wookiee? So she's gone to go find him. Osha is at Coruscant, or heading to Coruscant, so I assume that's where we're going to go. I thought we would go there last episode, but we did a full flashback one. I mean, that basically sums it up. So let's stop dilly-dallying around with this shitty intro and get right into the fucking episode.
Indara, Torben, Kalnaka, and you.
Yeah.
I was there when our sister started a fire.
See, this is what I mean. They tell us what happens, and then they show us what happened, right? There he is, Shrek. What planet is this? Alright, go far. Thank you. There he is. I want to see him with a lightsaber. So why is he out here on his own? Like, what's he doing? He's still got his lightsaber. Is that the, like, symbol thing? Oh, I never would have guessed that's Coruscant. Imagine she hits him in the face.
Thank you. For what? For helping me find my sister. Prove my innocence, clear my name.
Was that... Oh, I don't think... Hang on. It wasn't because of her.
May is the Jedi's problem now. And I'm not a Jedi.
You care about me.
Well, she's her sister. Like, obviously. Like I said, like, the ship designs are interesting. Like, compared to what we're used to. Like, I do like the ship designs. Is this a fucking mate yet?
I know bounty hunters won't set foot in these forests.
Yeah, I don't know. He's definitely the Sith. Or whatever. He's just acting clumsy for the sake of acting clumsy.
No, I risked my life to help you. You need to kill the Wookiee. You made a deal. Follow me?
It's like, she's been training for 17 years, but like, did this... the Sith, did he find her straight away? Like, that's the question, right? Like, what's the history there?
She is far.
Is that Kiadi-Mundi? The fuck?
Guide her every choice in combat.
Yet there is skill there.
Yes, someone has trained her.
An apprentice who doesn't know their master.
Could this be a splinter order?
This girl could become a major threat.
She's not disciplined.
Is that Kiadi-Mundi?
The maid targeted these 3.
4, including you, Sol. She turns up all these years later, trained by one of our own.
You think a Jedi taught her?
Even a hologram can tell me that.
We must alert the High Council.
The High Council would be obliged to inform the Senate. We should handle this ourselves.
Why would it be a Jedi? How could it be a Jedi?
Why didn't you tell me about this?
I did.
Well, he did.
Why didn't you tell me there was a chance this poor girl survived?
Before.
Is that Kiadi-Mundi? How the fuck? Whatever.
Let me be the one to bring her in.
I fear May is only a small part of her master's larger plan.
Well, yeah, obviously.
She will not surrender without getting something in return.
Do we have something she wants?
Osha. Obviously. Is that Kiadi-Mundi? If that's Kiadi-Mundi, I'm questioning shit.
I'm just curious how you're gonna do it this time. You failed so much. You have to kill the Wookiee without a weapon. I just owe him. You know how he is.
You just oh, it's him. He's a Sith. Sith. Come on, it's not a hard fucking mystery to solve.
She seemed in over her head. She seemed really fond of that one Jedi Master. What was his name again? Sol?
He's a Sith. Like, it's so obvious.
It's alright.
Osha!
So,
I went to find you and Jackie said you already left.
how did you catch up to her that quick?
You want me to rejoin the Jedi?
Well,
No.
You need me so you can get to her.
when I told May you were alive, her eyes softened. She became a different person.
Why did she become an... Literally, she tried to kill Osha last episode. What are you talking about, Sol? They're trying to, like, make May seem like a good person. But last episode proves that she's not a good person. Like, she was going to kill, like, an insect or an animal, and then she was going to kill Osha.
But I'm not wearing that civilian robe.
Cut to her wearing the civilian robe. There you go.
Station him in over a year.
Oh, look at all these red shirts. They're dead. That's not Plo Koon, is it? Is that Plo Koon? What the fuck? Oh,
What's that? That's Basil.
Basil.
Any questions?
No, very comprehensive briefing, Yord.
Basil. Maybe he's a Sith. Basil's a menace. Because I just realised that's the same ship, isn't it? There's a lot of Jedi here. Like, there's just a lot of random faces that we haven't seen before. Like, they're dead. That's why they're here.
Afraid I'm going to have to insist that you hand it over.
No. Why does the show look so weird?
Kalaka is in there.
Like, it seems like a... That doesn't look good. Like, it seems cheap as fuck, even though the show costs a lot of money. Now, Basil sniffs him out.
Sol thinks that May can be saved.
How could she be saved when she literally threatened to kill you last episode?
I've known you since we were younglings. I've always been your wound. Maybe Sol brought you here to face her.
Why did he say, I've known you... Like, why did he say that? Like, dialogue-wise, like, that just... Why did he say that? Like, what? They just felt so random compared to, like, what he said after. How does he know where he is? Like, what? Fuck is all that? Actually, wait, is it insects?
He says there's something wrong here. Something rotten.
It's an insect. Don't touch it. She's gonna touch it. Why would you touch it? It's like a cockroach. And now it's going to move, watch. Yeah. Typical. What the fuck? Wait, it can fly? Well, it's a good thing you didn't wake the others up. After all that noise. Considering one just woke up from touch.
I was able to sense that creature,
Well, that's good.
but I disturbed it. And now it's dead.
So?
I couldn't accept what I'd lost. How unfair it felt.
Hmm.
We're not defined by what we lose. We're defined by what we survive.
Probably 10 minutes south of here. We're just gonna make it.
How do you know where it is, then?
No.
I'd like to rest for a minute, if that's all right with you.
Like, he knows the Jedi is coming.
It's not a test. He calls it the final lesson. How do you kill someone like that? Unarmed. It's impossible.
It's not impossible.
It's him.
And if I don't do it, they'll kill me. You don't even care.
I care. You're losing your nerve, and we can't have that, can we?
Why does he care so much? That's just interesting. And that was a cool shot, I guess.
Basil. Great. He's vanished again.
Again?
We've lost Basil.
What? Who's screaming? He heard that too.
After running through that forest for an extremely long time, I realized something. I don't need to kill a Jedi without a weapon. I don't need to keep this deal. What?
Huh?
Osha being alive changes everything. My loyalty is to Osha, not your master.
You were literally gonna kill it last episode. What the fuck are you talking about?
The Jedi will put you in prison.
He'll kill you.
You'd have to find me first.
He already has. He's here. He's right there. He's hanging upside down.
Hey!
Who's that?
What is it?
It's nothing.
He sensed something.
You weren't ready.
But I'm ready now.
This is different.
What? No, it isn't.
You're going to face your past. Both of us will. I'll explain everything. I promise.
Oh. She's gonna fall into a... Yep. That was obvious.
Hey, little buddy.
Master Kilnaka!
I thought she's not gonna kill Kelnaka. He's already dead. It was, what's his name? Quamar?
He's here.
How's he here? It's almost like he came with you. Huh? Also, it got dark very quick. What the fuck?
Come out with your hands where we can see them.
That means you, May Anasea.
He's here. What the fuck? Like... It's 100% him. Who else was in this planet? That's an interesting mask. Looks like fucking the Batman who laughs. What the fuck? Are you fucking kidding me? Just as it starts to get juicy. This is the problem with fucking Disney Plus, dude. Like, why are the shows so fucking short? Like, the episodes, they're not even that long. Whatever. It's fucking ugh. Actually, wait, I'm curious. Like, will it say if that was Ki-Adi-Mundi or not? There! Master Ki-Adi-Mundi! Oh, for fuck's sake, man. Like, what the fuck? Well, I should probably start this review off by emphasizing that I don't want to be negative just to be negative here, but I didn't like that episode. The reason why is because what the fuck did we do? We just watched the Jedi trek through the fucking woods for the whole episode, basically. Yes, there was some other things that were happening, but when the story actually starts to pick up, right at the end, they fucking end the episode. Why? Like, last episode was a full-on flashback episode that we didn't need. And this episode is just... Like, what the fuck? Like, based off these last 2 episodes, it just feels like the show isn't intended for 1 episode a week watch format. Like, this feels more like a binge show. Like, just with the way it's formatted, like, it's like, oh shit, the episode's over, now we have to wait a week for the next one. It's like, but what if the next one's another flashback episode and we don't actually find out what happened? You know what I mean? Like, we're halfway through the season, and it just feels like not a lot has really happened. The biggest problem with this episode is just the way they treated May as a character. Like, what the fuck are they doing with May's character? 1 minute she's killing Jedi, the next minute she's like, oh no, I don't want to do that anymore, I want to be a good person. Even though we've established last episode that she's a little shit, and she's a psychopath. Like, she loves her sister that much that she wants to kill her. That's the character we're dealing with here. The writers don't know what the fuck they want to do with May. How does she do a complete 180? Right? She wants to kill Cal Naka, right? I think that's his name, the Wookiee. In episode 2. And now she doesn't. And then, like, also, just the way they're treating Chimera, right? Like, he's 100% the Sith. I say that with quotations. I don't know if they're trying to be obvious that it's him, like the writers, or the writers are just so dog shit that it's so obvious that it's him. You know what I mean? Like, they couldn't think of another idea of how to have a Sith play into this other than the obvious. Like, I think it would have been interesting if, like, the plan was to May to get captured, and then she gets close to Saul and then kills him, or something like that. That would have been a bit more interesting, instead of, like, her doing a complete 180, right? Because it just makes no sense. You can't redeem May because of what you gave us for her character last episode. Like, she legit is a psychopath. You can't redeem that. You can't redeem a character that's always been a little shit. Like, sure, you could have an argument of saying, like, oh, maybe she was good before everything went down and then whatever happened changed her. But no, she was always a little shit. So you can't redeem that. Just because she knows Osha's alive, even though she wanted to kill her last... Like, that's what I mean. The show is so fucking... There's no, like, continuity. Like, they don't know what they want to do with the characters. The characters, like, 1 minute are just, yay, I'm the good guy. Next minute, I'm the bad guy. Or in this case, May. She's a bad guy, but then suddenly she's a good guy, even though we've established that she's been bad since she was, like, born, basically. There's no defending that writing-wise. Like, it's just shit writing. The writing is a clear problem. Like, a very, very clear problem. Because, like, I feel like we've figured out who the Sith is, or the... whatever. Unless the bigger question is, maybe the Sith is actually the Acolyte. His master will be the big plot twist. But then the question is, like, who's his master going to be? I swear to God, if it's fucking Palpatine. Or Plagueis. Like, the writing is just so all over the place. Like, but it's just like the dialogue. It's just shit. Right? Like, the May stuff and the Yord scene, for example, with Osha. And then Yord was like, oh, I've known you since you were young. Or we've known each other since we were young. And it's like, okay, but in the context of, like, what you follow that up with, it makes no sense. Like, why did he say that? That was just exposition for exposition's sake. Okay, they've known each other for a long time, but why did he say that? It was weird, you know? Like, dialogue-wise, it just didn't feel natural. Like, no one would say that. Not like that, anyway. And it's the same thing with every episode so far. Like, the dialogue between characters just doesn't... Like, there's some times where it's like, oh, that's decent, that's good dialogue there. But then there's a lot of times where it's just like, it makes no sense. It just doesn't feel natural. It feels like the character's reading from a script, or it's just exposition. And it just doesn't feel natural. Like, nobody talks like, 8 years ago we went through this experience together. Do you remember? Like, nobody speaks like that. Right? Like, obviously that didn't happen in this episode, but I'm just saying, it's similar to that. That's how the dialogue feels. Like, it's very artificial. Not saying it's written by AI or anything, but I'm just saying it just doesn't feel natural. And then, outside of the dialogue, and the May situation and all that, You have what I think a lot of people would consider a big problem here. Me kind of included here. Ki-Adi-Mundi. What the fuck are you playing at? That motherfucker is not that old. Like, in the he doesn't even look that much younger here. Except that maybe he has a different hair colour. That's about it. But then on top of the fact that you have his dialogue from Phantom Menace, there's not been a Sith sighting in a millennium. However, should point out that technically they did say this episode that it could just be like a rogue Jedi. Like a Jedi that left the Order and has just turned bad. Which, sure, could be that. It's not like that hasn't happened before. There's other Jedi throughout Star Wars that have just turned their lightsaber red. You know, very recently, Jedi Survivor. With the High Republic guy that was in, like, a fucking back-to-tank, and he just turned his lightsaber red, even though he was a Jedi. Sure, he did some dark things, but he's a Jedi. He's not actually a full-on Sith, because he can't be during the time of the Empire and Palpatine and Vader being around, right? So he can't be a Sith. But maybe he can, because fuck the rule of two. The rule of two clearly didn't matter in the Old Republic days, did it? Yeah, like, Ki-Adi-Mundi just being there, like, is just weird. It's a weird decision. Like, if Yoda was there, I could buy that, because Yoda makes more sense to be there. Ki-Adi-Mundi? No. Absolutely not. There's just no way Ki-Adi-Mundi, in the events of the prequels, is over 100 years old. I don't buy that for a second. But at the same time, it's a fucking universe where there's space wizards. So, like, them changing his age is whatever. But we've clearly established that Disney doesn't give a fuck about canon. Like, outside of the Ki-Adi-Mundi stuff. I mean, they retconned the fucking Kanan situation. So, let's... It's not like they're afraid to change canon, because they've done it before. Like, they completely changed... Like, in their own canon. Like, they've got the novels and the comics that are part of the canon story. And yet they retcon the stuff that is in canon. Like, they're fucking stupid. Disney, what the fuck are you doing? Granted, it doesn't bother me as much when it's retconning, like, something that happens in a book. Because I'd rather see it in live action or in an animation. Because it's just easier to consume. Granted, I have read some of the books and a lot of the comics. But that doesn't change the fact that just because I don't mind it as much, that it isn't bad, because they're still retconning it, right? Like what they did with Kanan's Master, right? There was a comic book where, like, the events of that is shown, and it's very different to what we see in Bad Batch. Like, I just don't get the Ki-Adi-Mundi thing, because he just doesn't look younger here than he did in the prequels. And maybe that's just down to the makeup, which then makes you question how the fuck this show costs $180 million. And yet they can't nail the fucking makeup of a character that's already appeared in a movie before. That probably cost cheaper than this. So I've just read, one of the writers for this episode has said that in an early draft, they had Cal Naka's fight scene and death scene on screen, like in the script. But they changed it because of budget/story reasons. Which is questionable because you still could have had Cal Naka show up, but maybe he's killed in the fight. You don't have to kill him beforehand, you know, like, if that's a story reason why you want to do it. But then on top of the fact that you kill him off screen, a cool fucking Jedi Wookiee like that, you kill him off screen, and then you also use the excuse of budget for a show that costs $180 million fucking dollars. This costs more than the prequels. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, granted, with inflation, you could probably argue that the prequels would cost more, but maybe not. Let me search up Revenge of the Sith budget. $113 million US for Revenge of the Sith. And yet, surprisingly, that movie holds up pretty well. That Grievous shot, where, like, it zooms into his eyes and he goes, like, you must realize you are... and all that nonsense, right? That still looks good. There's moments in that fucking film that still look good. Like, Vader breathing, and, like, it just looks so good still. Like, the battle over Coruscant, great. But then, you have this show. And I said it in the reaction. It just looks cheap. It looks like they didn't spend a lot of money on the environments. on the costume design, on the CG. Like that shot where they were looking over like the forest and it was kind of smoky and you could clearly tell that was a fucking green screen. It cost 180 million. Now granted, why am I bothered about that? Why am I bothered about it costing that much? Well, for one, I've just compared it to the budget of the other fucking thing, Revenge of the Sith. Revenge of the Sith has a smaller budget. So they're spending more money for a worse product. All that money just to release a show that, I'll be honest, has been a bit shit for the most part. It's not been great. That's the part that I'm questioning. And like this goes into a lot of shows. Like, how have you spent so much money on this show, but yet it just doesn't feel like you've spent a lot of money on it? Like, budgets, in my opinion, you shouldn't like hype up the fact that this show cost this amount of money when something for cheaper looks better and has better dialogue and a better story. You spend that much money for a worse story and worse costume design and worse like environments, but it costs more. Like, that's wild to me, and I just don't get it. And it's been a thing with a lot of shows recently. Like, The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live, apparently cost 100 mil. Like, the full budget was like 100 mil. It was like 24-ish mil per episode or something like that. Or it was like 80 mil for the season. It was a ridiculous amount of money. But yet it didn't look like it cost that much. Because not a lot was happening in the episodes to make it be that much. So that's a recent example. Like, that show cost a lot of money, apparently. But yet they spent a whole episode just in one building for The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live. So, like, where is this money going? Sorry, I'm going on a fucking rant here about budget and shit, but it's just... it's ridiculous. Like, genuinely, this show specifically, gives CW levels of cinematography. Like, it just doesn't look nice. You know, there's moments where, like, there was one shot this episode that I liked, but it also felt like a stock shot, like they just found it on the internet somewhere and they just used it. I think, for the most part, it does seem like they're in these environments, right, and they are shooting on location, but something about it just looks so cheap. Whether it's how it's shot, how it's framed, how it's lit, I guess, would be like the better one. It just, something about it screams off. And I don't know what it is. And I guess the biggest problem is the way the show is treated. It's like a movie. And I don't think that's how it should be. It doesn't feel like a TV show. However, I did kind of like how the Sith kind of dropped down at the end. Sith. I need to keep saying that, because we don't know if it is a Sith or not. But the way he dropped down kind of reminded me of Dooku from the Micro series. You know, when he like sees Ventress in like the arena and stuff. And then after she's like fought all the monsters and beasts and the champions, I guess, he just floats down. It reminded me of that. Like, it's the dialogue. The dialogue is like the biggest problem. And that's like always my main gripe with shows in general, or movies. If the writing is shit, everything else falls apart. And that includes The Walking Dead, that includes Marvel stuff, that includes like The Boys, Game of Thrones, all that. So when the story is weak, or just generally lackluster, in terms of just like how it's going for the characters and their motivations and just the dialogue in general, then I start to lose interest. And I start to get pissed off. Because it's like, dude, like I said before, this show costs a lot of money, and yet you don't know how to write a good fucking show. But like I said, I'm not trying to be negative just to be negative. Like, I'm giving my criticisms here of things I don't like. The things I did like this episode, I guess, like the end scene. The end scene is pretty cool. Like, you know, like I said, the Sith kind of coming down like Dooku from the Clone Wars Micro series, and like just everyone igniting their lightsaber and stuff like that. That's cool. But then they end the episode and it's just like, for fuck's sake, dude. Like, just as I was about to like get into it and it was about to pick up. Not that like the show needs action or lightsaber fights or anything like that. No. It's just, we're 4 episodes in. You know, we're halfway through the season. I expect like the plot to pick up quite a bit. But we spent a whole episode just trekking through the fucking woods, and then right at the end, something starts to happen, and then it ends. And then we got to wait another week, where we could not even get the continuation of that scene. You know, they could just skip it. Yeah, like I said, I didn't really like that episode. clearly, based off my rants. But, you know, I'm just hoping for it to all come together and for it to all make sense and work as a story. Like, it could get better. There's always that chance it could get better. But that could just be copium, you know? But there's been shows out there that haven't started great. Specifically Clone Wars. Clone Wars is a good example. Clone Wars started like shit. It wasn't that good. And then it got better, like in season 3. And, you know, it took 3 seasons for Clone Wars to actually find its stride. Sure, this isn't great right now, but it could get better later on in the season when the story starts to come together and for it to all make sense. Like, right now, this is just a lot of setup for stuff that doesn't really matter. But once we get the juicy shit, then maybe it'll get good. But that could just be copium. I don't know, though. Yeah, that basically sums it all up. So I hope you enjoyed the video, guys, and I will see you for the next one. Ta-ta! And farewell.